Hey, Joy.
Hey, Yadi.
Hey, y'all. And welcome to ETHA's first webinar. There'll be another webinar next week, but we thank you for joining us. And I want to make this different from most of the sterile kitty litter box webinars, especially about medicine. And you'll know right away that this is an informal discussion. And I want to impress upon you 3 things. These are my goals for this webinar. So if you hang out, we can accomplish things. The first thing is I want to get you to understand what my definition of real health is. 2, I want to contrast other programs that are available from the scholastic university level down to the informal certificate level and to things that don't even bear certificates, personal education or health education, that kind of thing. And the third thing, I want you to see if ETHA is a good fit for you or if something that we offer is interesting to you. So I want to give you a good array of everything. But the first thing that we have to do right away
What's that?
is we have to say that this is not medical advice.
Yes.
We are not medical doctors, nor are we trying to be medical doctors. So please consult with your physician and or clinician before beginning any training program. And after that medical disclaimer, your physician or clinician probably has no idea what we're talking about. But, let's just be honest. Let's be as for real as we can.
Okay.
There's a lot of information. There are a lot of infographics and memes that tell you take this, eat that. And we have a multi-billion-dollar
industry?
We have 2 of them. So the first one is the medical complex, the AMA, the CDC, and the FDA. Those are the big 3. Right. And people will moan on, and that's politics, and that has no significance in the world of health and healing. If you get into a car accident and you need an emergency surgery, please go to a medical doctor.
Right.
If you're having a heart attack or a stroke, please go to a medical doctor.
Any emergency, please go to the doctor, to the hospital.
An acute situation.
Right, yes.
That's one of the great benefits of Western medicine. So
Absolutely.
At the beginning of a course on Eastern traditional healing arts, I'm telling you the value of Western medicine. Okay, so with that said, I kind of want to give this contrasting, this view, because we're in the middle of a nationwide pandemic and people are starting to reevaluate their lives. Like you're looking at the next year of your life financially. You may be looking at your health, if you have a condition or your kids have a condition or your parents have a condition, and you're wondering, is this really going to affect me? There are people who want to play politics. Oh, this is all a hoax. I can tell you personally, I've had people who were infected with COVID-19 as patients, and if you want to believe it's a hoax, that's up to you. But you have to deal with what's in front of you, regardless of what you believe.
That's what we were going to say. We are dealing with what's in front of us, and what's in front of us is not a hoax. So
yeah, it doesn't matter what you think and believe. In fact, the less you go with a belief system and the more objective you are, the more you can validate what you do with results.
Right.
So a lot of people are talking about remedies. A lot of people are talking about drugs. A lot of people are talking about vaccines. If we end up getting vaccinated, right, if that becomes the mandate where all of us, all 365 million Americans need to have a vaccine, first of all, that's very expensive to do. And second of all, there's a risk of, infection. Even if you get the vaccine, there's a risk of a hypersensitive reaction, an anaphylactic reaction. There are a whole host of things that might happen even in the process of, getting past COVID-19. So in the short term, you may be thinking about your health and safety, your kids' health and safety, your parents, or the older people in your community, yourself.
And you want to have something that you can do about that, right?
Yeah, you just want to know that you can survive. And secondarily, because this is a novel virus, novel means it's new. We don't know much about it. You don't know 6 months from now you had COVID, it was no big deal, and now all of a sudden you have thrombosis, you have blood clots in your legs. You don't understand how that happened. And we don't know, we really don't know what happens after you get COVID. So, with that said, I want to sort of compare and contrast. We're going to talk about history and now, and kind of give you an understanding of Eastern traditional healing arts. So this is meant to be a holistic practice, meaning if someone comes in here with a mechanical problem, I have frozen shoulder, or I have tennis elbow, or I have cervical spondylosis, or I have scar tissue somewhere, or I have a pain, right?
In one specific area, they'll point out.
Right. You should be able to handle that. And you should be able to pinpoint not only in the hand, in the foot, in the ear, in the face, in the scalp, in the abdomen, where the problem is, but you should be able to target that injury or that problem, that complaint, from so many different angles that if you don't get it from the site of injury, all right, frozen shoulder, I just rub the shoulder like massage, right? But that doesn't feel any better. Mm-hmm. So now you learn the auricular system, which is the ear. The auricle is the ear. So you learn auricle with an A. You learn the auricular system, and now you have two ears, you have several shoulder points, you have several pain points, you have cranial nerve points, you have sedation points, you have disc points, you have muscular points, you have organ points, you have glandular points.
So you basically increased how much you can do by learning another
Even
system
one
away
system.
from the point of pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So even if you just knew the ear system, the ear is the fuse box of the brain. Now, this is why I'm saying this is that sounds great. So let's get off this webinar and let's go on YouTube and look up ear acupuncture and auricular therapy. Let's get on Terry Olson's website, or let's go pay for a course. Well, the reason why we have ETHA is because I've personally filtered through thousands of hours of classroom, thousands of hours of practice, and I'm trying to deliver what I believe to be the most effective version of these particular things. I have no problem with anyone learning anything from anywhere, even after you take this course.
Right. But the key thing is you've already gone through these systems and you have tried them on several different people. So you already know what's going to work and what's going to work the fastest. So you can go through the courses, but you don't have to go through those if you don't want to.
They'll be more like review.
Yeah.
So I mentioned the ear. There's also a scalp system that comes from the Chinese Master Fu, and from Dr. Yamamoto from Japan. Again, you can find books on these things. These are not my inventions. I didn't make them. I just use them. Scalp therapy is global. It's holistic. It affects everything in the body because it's close in proximity. It's on your scalp. It's very close to your brain. It has a strong effect on the nerves.
Sure, yeah.
It has a strong effect on the the vagus nerve that controls breathing, that controls your digestion, that controls your heart beating. So very calming, very good for addictions, very good for things that are psychophysical, like trauma-related, post-abuse, post-accident, and really the understanding is that healing is holistic. So it's good to have several tools in the arsenal. So I'm still trying to get shoulder pain. So I also use a reciprocal system where if you have pain in the shoulder, you use the other shoulder.
Oh.
The nerves don't know the difference between one extremity and the other because the center of your body is the control panel for the bilateral or both sides, the bilateral organ.
So wait,
bilateral
you're saying
tissue.
if there's pain on this shoulder, you can use this shoulder to get rid of it?
Of course. Everything is nerves. Like if you feel pain, that's nerves, right? Your sensation of anything, any feeling is nerves. Your nerves are what senses pain, sends a signal to the brain. So if I send another signal to the brain using the other shoulder, the brain doesn't interpret it after a while as, oh, that's my left or right shoulder. It just interprets that there's another sensation, and one sensation can override or interfere with the other.
Okay.
A lot of the mythology about Asian therapy, when it comes down to reflex therapy, which originally had different names, reflex or reflexology. I like reflex therapy because reflexology is actually, that's really not what we do, because people usually think of that as a foot system, and they have a European foot map.
And we have a system that covers a wide range of body parts.
It's not the same map.
Yeah.
So reflex therapy, I think one of the big myths in reflex therapy that if you just hurt somebody, that the pain distracts you from the other pain and it's not actually doing anything, you're just hurting the person again. And it's not true. Especially as we go, you'll see certain things that we use in clinic. You'll see that we use lasers. We use a lot of lasers. We use LEDs, the light emitting diodes. We use pulse electromagnetic fields, PEMF. We'll use good old hands. And we'll use percussive massage tools.
But this webinar is about things that people can do now.
Well, this webinar is the door. Like, you're in our clinic, you see Wally the turtle in the background. This is home. For those of us who deal with really critical issues on a daily basis, like maybe you have high blood pressure. That's one of the biggest killers of mankind. Maybe you have lung problems, COPD. Maybe you have asthma. Maybe you have a more insidious immune condition. Maybe you have myasthenia gravis, or maybe you have lupus or fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis or Sjogren's or Raynaud's syndrome. Maybe you have a thyroid problem. There's nothing on that list that we can't dramatically impact.
True.
And I use the shoulder example, and I mentioned the ears, I mentioned the scalp. We also use a Vietnamese face system. Mm-hmm. We also use 2 hand systems, both from Korea, from 2 different traditions. One of them is called Suji, which is hand therapy, or hand, it just means Suji is hand, and Sujok, which means hand-foot. Sujok is not very common in the West, very common in India, very common in Russia, but Sujok is a combination therapy of hand and foot. It literally means, Sujok literally means hand and foot. We use something called sacred turtle, which is an abdominal system. If you're studying acupuncture, you would learn that as an acupuncture system. It's very similar to the hara therapy in shiatsu. Very similar to the abdominal therapy or the hara in shiatsu, or in Japanese traditional medicine, or JMT, Japanese meridian therapy. Mm-hmm. Where they use the hara to diagnose, or the hara to assess. Really critical that you understand we have a proprietary spinal system that no one else is using. And I'm going to do an illustration with these pipe cleaners later on. I'm going to play with toys in front of y'all.
But you're giving people kind of an overview of the techniques that we use, because they work so well.
Well, okay, so when you market a product, everyone sounds the same. It's the greatest. It's hyperbole. Like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. I was dying and now I'm not. Ding, ding. And honestly, that's what it is. I've done it too. Like, the thing that motivated me, you see a picture of me at 117 pounds and a picture of me at 155. I'm 45 years old. Joy's 45, just turned. You see me at 27, I look like the before Jordan Rubin, the patient heal thyself. I was scrawny and I was dying.
And you looked older than you do now.
Yeah, I looked weak, I looked pale, I looked dead. And, to be almost 20 years older and be healthier than I was then, this is the part 2 part. Like, I really want people to understand. We can sit up here all day long and say, oh, the medical industry is taking advantage of us. Well, so is the supplement industry.
Ooh.
And
we'll have to talk about that.
I don't want to name any. It's not one person or one company, but the supplement business is a multi-trillion-dollar business. And if you look at the statistics over who has diabetes, who has heart disease, who has asthma, who has ADHD, who has celiac disease, who has, gastroesophageal reflux, common diseases like acid reflux, who's getting these diseases, it's not any different than if they were on drugs. Now you're on a natural remedy that, yeah, great, it's less side effects, but you can't get off that natural remedy.
So what we're basically saying then is holistic in our book does not equal taking pills, whether they're herbal or drugs.
Well, okay, holistic means you fix the problem.
Okay.
You fix the whole body. So this is the first point, is the enemy is not Western medicine. The enemy is not Eastern medicine. The enemy is not naturopathy. The enemy is not homeopathy. But the problem is the idea that if I'm taking a pill, that's all natural healing has to offer me. There are 3 parts of our protocols. One of them is chemical, and that would deal with taking supplements.
Sure.
We're not against supplements. We're against over-supplementation the same way we're against over-medicating.
Or using the supplement as your only method of healing.
That's a common thing. Like, what do you recommend for this? What do you recommend for that? I never answer those questions. I say, I recommend you go talk to a doctor.
Right.
The other thing is the food therapy. Organic food is a multi-trillion-dollar international business. And again, I was eating a perfect, pristine, organic diet when I was sick as hell. So chemical, that's chemistry. That's what you're putting into the body. Even water, that's chemistry, right? There's water, there's a $4,000 water unit, an $8,000 water unit. Okay, so there's chemical, and then there's mechanical, and then there's electric. These are the things that are part of a holistic therapy.
Say that again.
There's chemical, there's mechanical, and there's electrical. What is mechanical? This is mechanical. Like
movement.
Yeah, that's mechanical, right?
Sure.
So Qigong, Chinese Qigong, and the newest edition, Whole Body Fix, which is a blend of Qigong, a blend of somatics, Hana somatics, and a blend of some Korean Gicheon, right?
Oh, good.
Which is Qigong. It's literally just a different culture naming it. When you deal with mechanics, right, there's a regular set of movements that we do, there's a regular set of mechanics that we do, but all of the mechanics that I have people do are irregular. Because
why would you do that?
A lot of times we use our ball and socket joints like they're a hinge. You only have elbows and knees, which are your big hinge joints. Your shoulders are ball and sockets, your hips are ball and sockets, your wrists are ball and sockets, your ankles are ball and socket joints, right? Even your fingers and toes are ball and socket joints. You do have a hinge joint here. But the thing is, the way we use our body is so sharp. All of our angles are sharp. And I'll see special training, or what they call functional exercise now, with kettlebells and Indian clubs and all.
Then there's that primal movement.
I actually like primal
Oh,
movement.
good. Okay.
Some of these things I do. I do like a lot of different disciplines.
So mechanical is key, because I think one time you had said that most of the time we move the same way all the time, and then still wonder why we have pain.
Yeah. You go get a massage, right? You say, my back hurts. And then they get a massage. You're like, ooh, I feel good. And I'll explain why they didn't help you. But I feel good. My muscles are I'm so relaxed. And then you go back to moving exactly as you always have. You're going to have the same patterns.
So that didn't heal. It just went back to the way it was before you had them.
It never would have healed anyway.
Right.
It never would have healed anyway, which deals with a really crucial subject that I've been trying to tell people. Muscle tension is not from muscles. Muscle tension is from your nerves sending signals to fire the muscles. So when you get a massage or when you do stretching, that's you get sort of an analgesic effect, an anti-pain effect, just because you feel a different sensation. But remember, all feeling is nerves.
Nerves. So muscle tension is the nerves firing
to contract the muscle.
Contract the muscle.
That nobody would disagree with that. The reason why you have muscle tension isn't because of the muscle. It's because the nerves are making that signal to tense the muscle. Now, a lot of times you have muscle tension because you have structural problems. You have weakness in another group of muscles, or you're out of alignment structurally, or you breathe too heavy, or whatever. And a holistic system would look at the mechanics of your breathing, or look at not just your your spinal mechanics, or do a spinal postural assessment like they do in chiropractic.
Sure.
But do a movement assessment.
So how well you move one way as opposed to how a limb doesn't move in a certain direction.
Or, what's the range of motion? And how is the range of motion affected? How do you breathe? How often do you lick your lips because they're dry? Mm-hmm. I just did it.
And if these mechanics are affecting any other internal processes.
So that's the other thing, is learning how to read the person, how to read the patient. In Chinese medicine specifically, they have a 3-pulse system, or really a 6-pulse system. They have a Sun, Guan, and Che, like they're reading lung 7, 8, 9 pulse, and they read it on both sides. There's a Jinbai pulse where they read, that's Korean. Jinbai pulse where they read stomach 9 and lung 9 at the radial crease. Mm-hmm. Our pulse system uses the inner crease of the ankles. The outer crease of the ankle.
Yes.
And for the most part, we don't use a pulse system. Most of our recognition comes from palpation and face and fingernails.
And movement analysis?
Yeah, looking at the body, watching how you move. So that's a big contrast with naturopathy. With naturopathy, it's almost like Western medicine. And so the same way I just said, that the reason you have muscle tension isn't because of the muscle,
right? It's
because of the nerves. And we want to find out what the nerves are protecting you from, because that's a natural thing for your body to protect itself. What's going on?
That's a really good point. Wow.
The second thing I'm going to touch is, if you look at natural medicine, and by natural I mean naturopathy, homeopathy, acupuncture, Chinese medicine, Western herbalism, native herbalism, even Persian medicine, Greek medicine. If you look at all of these different medicines, right, a lot of what we get in the West is this summarization that you either have a parasite, candida, candidiasis, you have candida, or you have heavy metal toxicity.
That you have to detox.
You have to detox and cleanse. And so heavy metal toxicity, leaky gut syndrome. And I've blogged about these things for years. And I've said those are all very terrible diagnoses. And I've clashed with people, sometimes in a nice, friendly way, and other times not so nice. But I was diagnosed years ago with leaky gut syndrome, with heavy metal toxicity, with candidiasis and parasites. How did I have all of that?
By a naturopath, is what you're saying?
By several, like by a chiropractor, even by people who claim they do Chinese medicine. You claim you do Chinese medicine and you tell somebody they have leaky gut, that is not a Chinese that's not a pattern. Leaky gut syndrome is a Western designation. So the person may have spleen dampness, they may have liver blood deficiency, they may have liver blazing fire, deficient liver qi, whatever.
But not leaky gut in Chinese medicine.
That's not a Chinese condition, and we've gotten so westernized where we barely even learn the Eastern name for it, and right away we're jumping into another Western alternative diagnosis. Mm-hmm. So here's a crucial point. We're not looking to tell you you have candida. We're not looking to tell you you have parasites, you have mold, you have heavy metal. We're looking to find out.
We can't tell you you have a virus. We can't tell you you have a bacteria.
It's not your job.
Yeah.
Unless you're studying a stool culture on all of your people, you're actually looking at their stool. A lot of times you're guessing. And I don't want to split hairs. Oh, I do live blood cell analysis. Don't trust it. What about my hair? The hair. I did the hair test. Again, I'm not here to split hairs. I'm not here to tell people they're wrong. If you believe you have a selenium deficiency because you had a hair mineral test, if you believe in your live blood cell analysis, be my guest. I'm not in charge of you. And even when you're a student here at ETHA, you come in as a free soul. You leave out of here as a free soul. I'm not your master or guru.
But I think the point that you're trying to make the most is that even if you fix that particular one deficiency,
If such
like
a thing exists.
if you have a selenium deficiency, that's not the only thing you've got to fix.
Right. You may have a selenium deficiency, not because you don't get selenium, but because you don't absorb selenium, which again would be spleen deficient, possible stomach, spleen, stomach, earth element. But the difference again between us and the naturopath and us and the Western herbalist is we're not giving you candidiasis, heavy metal toxicity, leaky gut syndrome,
or deficiency in something.
But wait, nutritional deficiency.
Yeah.
But wait, there's a second difference. We're also not doing what Chinese acupuncture does, where we say, oh, your spleen is deficient, your liver is excess fire, or your liver is deficient in yin, or blah, blah. We're not doing the TCM thing either. What we do is a constitutional based therapy. So this is not a popular thing, and it's not widely practiced, and it's one of the reasons why our system is so effective, is because even though I've studied traditional Chinese acupuncture, I've worked as a TA in a Chinese a TCM educational school, I've worked for the dean of students at PCOM, Pacific College of Oriental Medicine. I was his direct disciple. I've worked with a Chinese traditional doctor, 7th generation, in clinic for years. I don't like teaching the TCM system because apart from you learning what 5 elements are, you learning what 12 meridians are, you learning what the 8 principles are, you learning what the 8 extraordinary vessels are, the 5 substances, those are things you could probably just look up online.
Sure.
And you might get a better education in all of those things. Apart from you knowing what they are, you have to know how to repair people on the most fundamental level. And we're born with a constitution. You don't need sorry.
No, I'll tell you this. I've been studying, we studied TCM starting in 2014. And...
Well, you studied...
I studied since 2014. He's been doing it much longer. However, the TCM didn't get to all of the issues and then didn't explain things that would seem to be straightforward, but they weren't. And it wasn't until this year that we embraced constitutional analysis. And when I finally found out what my constitution was, it changed everything because it finally explained why I had consistent issues that I thought would have been already taken care of.
Right.
But now I know how to take care of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's really important to mention a lot of TCM. And again, I'm not bashing traditional Chinese medicine. I've worked in it for years. I'm a believer, and I'm not even a believer. I'm an experienced clinician with it.
Yeah.
I just know what works and what doesn't. The 4 constitutional approach comes from Sa'am acupuncture, comes from Korean acupuncture. And I've had Korean teachers, I've had a Korean system that I've used on top of my Chinese training. And when I didn't understand how to use the TCM stuff, I just used the 4 constitutional stuff. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, knowing the TCM is very helpful, especially even with the constitutional, but it's not the whole picture. And now we have a whole picture.
Yeah. Let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
Right. So the beginning of Oriental medicine is all the same. It all starts with the Han Dynasty. Okay. There's a book called the Han Su, which is the book of the Han. During the Han Dynasty, there was a book written called The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Internal Medicine, or Huang Di Ne Jing.
That's one of the books we have to read.
That's one of our class books. So
yeah.
All medicine, all Oriental medicine, be it Chinese medicine, TCM, JMT, Japanese Meridian Therapy, what Kiko Matsumoto does, what Yoshimanaka does, the same thread. Japanese system is based on Han Dynasty information, like the Neijing, the Nanjing, which is a classic of needling, right? And the Jai Jing, a classic of difficulties. Jai Jing was a classic of needling, right? So these are classical books, but they're the basis of all Oriental medicine. And we definitely use the Neijing to give you a foundation in all Oriental medicine.
Sure, yes.
But what we're saying about the Chinese part of it is it can get very confusing Because I'll see people say, well, I have lung deficiency. They haven't been diagnosed. So my lungs are weak. But is it lung yin deficiency? Is it lung yang deficiency? Is there heat? Is there dampness? Is there wind? Is there cold?
There's so many variations.
So what our system says is those things are not constitutional.
Right.
So whether or not you have heat, whether or not you have cold, whether or not you have damp, whether or not you have phlegm, that is not your constitution. So a constitutional, I'll say the word medicine because that's the way it was taught to me. A constitutional based medicine is going to fix all of those problems because those are your inherent problems based on your constitution.
Right.
So you may have asthma, you may have diabetes, you may have interstitial cystitis, you may have colitis, you may have whatever, right? You know, itis is a common thing, right? Inflammation is a common thing. You may have those conditions as a result of not adhering to what's good for your constitution. Joyce said it. She told you, she said, look, when I found out what my constitution was, I changed my diet, I changed my exercise, and I understood why other things didn't work, which again, this is the contrast. All these medicines claim to be holistic. Homeopathy claims to be holistic, but in the end, you're getting a tincture, you're getting a pellet.
And it doesn't cover the other areas, which we'll get to.
Mechanics and electricity.
It
It
doesn't
barely
cover
covers
those.
chemistry, because are you getting vitamin A, B, C, D, and E now? K? Are you getting your minerals? No, you're just getting a pellet. Okay, so the difference is very clear. This is a holistic practice based on your individual constitution, and it's much easier than splitting it into pieces like the TCM system. TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, is not one pure system. It's a mix of many systems, and it's actually more modern and not traditional. The TCM is just a brand. It's not traditional. The Korean for constitutional, or Sasang, right? Sasang traditional medicine is traditional. It's over 400 years old. It's based on the Neijing, really based on the Nanjing, to be honest. Sa'am was a monk, and you can look up Sa'am. It's like Sam with an extra A, or Sa'am. There are not many books on Sa'am. It's not a popular practice. You're not going to see 50 books on Sa'am. You will see millions of books on traditional
TCM.
Chinese medicine, which is why it becomes chop suey very quickly. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more. Why is this system different from chiropractic? Let's call this your cervical spine, right? This is pipe cleaners, right? That's your cervical spine, or your cervix. Guys, we have a cervix. That's your cervix. And let's call this your thoracic spine in blue.
I need both?
Yeah, because it's big. Let's make your lumbar.
Do you want me to twist?
We can start to put them together.
Okay.
Let's make your lumbar spine out of pink. Pink lumbar. Oh, no, wait. Okay. I didn't explain.
That's why I asked first.
Alright, so I'm just going to make this the spine. I'm going to connect these suckers here.
Well, that's a long spine.
That's the thoracic spine. It's the longest part. It's got 12 vertebrae. Alright, you'll learn all of that. If you don't already know, it'll be a review if you do. Just watch this webinar. Okay, so I'm making your spine. That's lumbar. There's the cervical spine, or the neck. Right? Okay, so there is a sacral spine that goes underneath your lumbar, but let's just say this is your spine, okay?
That's a pretty long spine.
Yeah. This is called chongmai, or central, well, the inside would be chongmai, but the thrusting vessel. Okay? Now hold that for me. And let's get to my first map over here. Can you hand me the one behind?
Okay, here, you hold this, and I'll get the map.
I'm holding you by the spine.
You want me to hold it up?
I got it. Alright, so switch hands. Alright, so this is an enlarged, I have an enlarged spine. This is an enlarged map of what are known as the shoe points.
Yes.
right? So, like it or not, all of these points are named in Chinese, right? So, shu refers to the stream.
Shall I hold it and you point out some things?
Well, I'm not going to do that, but you can. I'm not going to point out point by point here.
Okay.
I'll take the spine. Would it be funny if we just moved this cardboard and disappeared?
Well, we're doing that now.
You can hold it to the side.
Oh.
Hold it to the side, so it's not.
Ah, I'll see. Okay.
So they can see the cute. All right. All right. So cervical spine, which you don't see in this chart, it ends here at C7 or C8 at Dajue. It's the big bone, and then you see at T1, T2, and then you start here at the shu at T3 and 4. It's a Fei Shu, Jueyin Shu, Xin Shu, Du Shu, and all of these Ganshu, Danshu, Pishu, Wei Shu, Sanjiao Shu, Shensu, Chihai Shu. You don't need to know any of those names, but you will learn each individual, what each individual shu point affects, as in lung or as in heart. So if we start right here, let's just say this is lung shu, right? So lung shu is not in the spine, but it's about 1 sun or 1 human inch away from the space in between the vertebrae, also called foramen magnum, or not foramen, intervertebral foramen, right? So the foramen is a space, intervertebral is a location, so in between the vertebrae, right? You have shu points an inch away. So you have that space, and then you have the shu point. Now, there's a practice in old acupuncture called dragon moxa. A dragon moxa is where they would put moxa punk up and down the spine, and it would be like 3 lines. It would end up being a big fiery mess, and within 2 days you would go back and you would have blisters to pop, and the blisters, when you pop them, would release bile and phlegm and, you know, black and purple crap.
Why would they do this?
Well, because it's so close to the spine, it empties out the lymph nodes. This wasn't the purpose. Back then they didn't use the word lymph, but it empties out stagnation. It would empty out the toxic or the congested yin. So,
which is what stagnation is.
Yeah, it would empty out congested yin or congested fluids. So this is really the first 2 months, if I'm depicting this. So if we go down the line, we go from lung to pericardium, which is the heart protector, right? So this is getting to know the body sort of from an electrical point of view, because there's not anything here but soft tissue and nerves. You're not massaging these points. You're not doing acupressure. You're learning how to manipulate what is underneath that opening, because all of these will be hollows. You have a foramen, which is a hollow space in between the bones, and then you have a very similar opening in between these soft tissues. So as we extend downward into the body, you start to see how this system, the spinal part of this system, goes together. Right? So if I'm drawing a map of the nerves, this is exactly how it works. Right? So now we have the heart shu, shin shu, right? So the big shin. So this is very important, just to get a visualization. Our system is designed to activate this entire circuit, not just to massage certain points. It's about getting the entire circuit to work, right?
That's the difference between our system and someone else's.
That's the difference between acupressure and reflex therapy, right? As you go down the spine, I'll point out something pretty important. You have these organs, the heart and lungs at the top, heart, pericardium, and lungs, and those are really the organs located at the top of the visceral space. Those are your uppermost organs. Obviously you have your brain, which is not in your chest, but the organs in your chest biggest organs are your heart and lungs. Actually, probably the biggest organ inside your body is your lungs. And it covers a huge visceral space. Visceral meaning, right? Okay, so the idea with spinal therapy is triggering the circuit.
Which is the electrical part of the system.
Yeah. And, okay, so what's the point of taking 5 minutes to talk about that? If you understand this in my course, which you will, because this is drilled into you the first 2 months.
And it's the basis of everything else that we do.
That was the next thing I was going to say. If you understand this, you will understand. Can you see that?
Sure.
All right, so these are the sinews. Somebody says, I couldn't call you, so I had to send you a message. I got it. Don't hide the cute.
He doesn't want to cover up my face.
Yeah, don't hide the cute. So these are the sinew channels, right? Sinew channels are basically the connective tissue and the muscles that sit on top of what are known as the jinglo, or the 12 meridians, which obviously we're going to cover in a course about traditional Oriental medicine or Oriental traditional healing arts, right? So the nerves control the muscles. Remember that from the beginning? So if you have muscle tension, do you need to rub the muscle? Yes and no. You can rub the muscle, but you're only creating a sensation, which is a nerve. It's a nerve sensation. All feelings are nerves. You're creating a sensation at the point of injury or at the point of complaint, at the site of complaint, which is a neurological therapy, whether you like it or not. What we do is we use the entire electrical system of the body to affect 12 major organs. Now, the pericardium and the triple heater or sanjiao, those are not considered organs in the West, although there is something called the pericardium, but it's not considered a channel. In Western anatomy, there is a pericardium. Peri means around, and then cardium obviously means...
I mean, they do have diseases of the pericardium. They do exist.
Yeah,
so,
and endocarditis is...
pericarditis also.
Yes, itis, a very common inflammation. So, okay, so here's the other... We've contrasted why this is different than naturopathy. We're not just throwing pills at you. We do have things that we like to recommend, but they're more like nutrients. They're more like things that you just need anyway. Mm-hmm. We've contrasted a little bit of why this is not like common acupuncture. Because we're using a constitutional-based system. Can I clear that thing, whatever that is? We're live, but no, that thing at the top. This thing right here.
I was looking at where to clear it.
Yeah, that's good. We're live. But anyways, we're not going back. We're not editing. So we went over a little bit of why this is different than Chinese acupuncture, why this is different than TCM, why this is different than Japanese meridian therapy, and we went over
homeopathy, Western medicine.
Well, we didn't get into that.
Okay. All right.
In the beginning, I said that Western medicine is excellent for trauma. And what I mean by that is you got hit by a 757 fell out of the sky on your ankle, right? That is not for me. That's the emergency room. You were looking at your air conditioner and got sucked in, and it the air conditioner blade is in you. That's not for me.
That's at the emergency room.
When you
got punctured by something, that's an emergency room.
Yeah, that's not for me. But with the scar tissue, yeah, that's for me.
That's after you've gone to the emergency room.
If
and
you're
we'll
not,
take care of that.
If you're gonna die from an injury, that's not for me.
I'm laughing, but it's something that we really need to drive home. That one, Western medicine is there for that, and two, we're here to help you after you are not dying.
Yeah. We'll help you with the recovery. But yes, if you get an air conditioner fan blade in you, it's not my thing. Okay, so I want to contrast a little bit more. So people are still under the impression that they won't get sick if they eat a certain way. And I've had patients, including myself, who have had very strict organic diets and still ended up with cancer.
Yeah.
I have one now, and even myself, I had an immaculate diet, and I was sick.
I've been eating organic longer than you, And
Probably
still
10
not,
years longer than
yeah, it's still not understanding. This is the holistic part. Still not understanding why I wasn't feeling the energy and feeling basically healthy. I felt tired and I felt bloated and I felt just not at the level that I should be at my age. And I was eating a pretty clean diet, organic, mostly fruits and vegetables, and not a whole lot of meat at all. And it wasn't working. It wasn't working.
So one of the early experiences, Joy can tell you if she wants, when Joy's hip froze up.
Oh gosh.
She used to walk with a cane.
Yeah.
And so you can tell the story if you want.
Well, this is how I came to Oriental or Asian medicine. Because I was a dancer since the age I was 8. And this is why I like the movement part of our system, because nobody addressed the movement aspect. Oh, I had injured my body for a long time, and just because I thought I could move, I thought I was still healthy. But I couldn't walk. So I got to the point where I couldn't walk, and I had to have a cane on some days in order to move.
How old were you?
I was 37.
37 with a cane.
That was not a good look at all. And once someone had said that I needed to get
It's
a
cool
hover round.
it's cool if you're the penguin.
But they said I needed to get a hover round. And I knew at that moment that I needed to do something, because I wasn't going to be 37 or even 45 in a hover round.
A hover round is cool too.
No, that's not what I was going to do.
Some people want to walk.
But I tried things, and I tried things on my own because I wanted to see if I could, quote unquote, heal myself. So I did the diet. And I did the diet in major extreme ways. I cut out sugar. I cut out certain things like chocolate that was irritating. Peppers. Just crazy things that I knew that I hadn't done before, so I was willing to try it. I did yoga, but my hips got to the point where I couldn't do it anymore because they hurt so much. And nothing was working.
Have you ever tried choga?
I don't know what that
Tai
is.
choga? Or yochi? It's yochi.
It's
yoga. It's yoga tai chi.
This is why
Choga.
I was the first ETHA student.
She was the second.
No, I was the first.
My
the
student
second one.
My student Donnell was the first.
Okay, fair enough. Donnell didn't go through the formal ETHA school, but he was his first.
He joined the military. He was a stand-up. He's a stand-up guy. He's still. If you're watching this, hey, shout out to Donnell.
Shout out to Donnell for sure.
So
I tried many different things and nothing was working.
Tell them about the day.
Well, that's what I was going to get to.
So
I walked into a health food store.
No, not that day.
Oh, which day?
So Joy and I are hanging out.
Ah, that day.
All right, and I'm like, come on, you walking like real slow.
Well, I was trying to be cool and not let on that I was in pain, because I really was in pain.
I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Chicago area, and like I move at a Chicago pace, even though I'm in the South, and like I'm trying to get some, this is my day off, so I'm like, hey, let's move. And Joy's like, come in.
What do they say in the South? The moving slower than molasses. That's really what was happening. I wasn't moving fast at all. So I finally told him that I have had hip pain and that I've had it off and on for years. So that was really hard.
She was getting ready to cry.
Yeah, it was really hard to admit that I couldn't fix it myself and I couldn't heal it myself.
When she started telling me the story, I heard PM Dawn come on. Is it my turn to totally walk with a cane?
So let me tell you what this guy decided to do. He said, let's do this Qigong. So the first thing I'm thinking is, how is this going to help? But I did it. It was a 20-minute set. It was hot as hell outside.
20 minutes of standing horse stance.
Horse stance. It was really hot. I was sweating. I had never had my body in a position like that before. And it seemed like 20 minutes was 2 hours.
She hated it.
I hated it the whole time. And I cursed and I cried And I said, I can't believe that this guy made me do this.
And all I heard was, is it my turn?
He's so
to
silly.
totally stand in my boots.
So
I feel so much pain that I might...
and it really wasn't pain. It was discomfort because my body had never done anything like that
And the
before.
bones, it's like the tissue is like meat. And like you're just trying to move meat by moving the bones through a sea of meat.
Yeah. So after I...
Which is a nerve thing, by the way.
Oh, okay. After I cursed and fussed and cried, I went to walk. And I thought, okay, I wasted all of this time and I'm not going to feel any better. I went to walk and there was no pain. Zero pain. I cannot make this up. And what's so interesting was that I tested it to see if it was a hoax or if it was a joke. I walked up.
Fake news.
I walked up a hill, I walked down the hill. I ran, I walked upstairs, and I did turns because the hip inflammation would keep me from turning sharply if I needed to do that. And I made turns, and there was nothing. There was no pain.
Yep.
And from that point on, that's when I realized that everything that I had done was incomplete. And I needed to have a system, which is what the system is that you're going to learn, in order for me to get back to my former self where I could move without pain. And it was those missing components that I needed in order to get to where I am now.
Mechanical component. So, thank you, by the way.
You're welcome.
And like when she was walking, there was a different song in her head playing.
I literally felt like, 'cause I'm a fast walker, and I felt like I was back to those days when I used to outwalk people. And I hadn't felt like that in years.
Walk
And
like a pigeon.
it was amazing. And he didn't do anything directly to my body. This is all of
You
the
don't
things
have
that
to.
I did for myself. He told me what to do, and I did them.
Remember, there are 3 pieces to this system. So you can teach somebody in person how to do a movement, or I have several programs. You can tell somebody the correct diet, and you can work on them in person. So if you're interested in the business aspect of what you learn at ETHA, you can still do work from a distance. Like I've had people in every country. I've taught people in every country. Well, every country that has internet.
We advise people all over the country now.
I haven't had any students in countries that don't have internet. Like, well, that don't have ours. Like, I have no North Korean students. I don't have any. I have South Korean students. Anyways, so the mechanical, the electrical, and the chemical all go together because mechanics affect electricity and mechanics affect chemistry. And I'm more concerned with triggering the chemicals, triggering the electricity by using the body than I am by using the digestion or by using the kidneys. I think, and this is from having patients on dialysis, you can't give them a bunch of stuff to take. You're going to have to use what's in front of you. And if a person can sit, they can do Qigong, or they can do whole body fix. Person can stand, they can do whole body fix. It's gotten to the point where I've modified every technique for almost every constitution.
Yeah.
Whether you're as skinny as a rail, as a dry piece of rice, or you're as round as a wet piece of rice. All right. So at the end of the day, the chemistry is affected by the mechanics. The electricity or the nerves are affected by the chemistry and the mechanics. It's a holistic system. Sure. But there's a typology system where we split it up into constitutions, and you learn very quickly what will not work for you. So if you're hitting the same brick wall, this is a different kind of therapy. And it comes out of my own frustration with my own health.
I mean, both of ours, really. I was wanting to learn Chinese medicine in a way that wouldn't take me forever and wouldn't make my pockets thin.
Okay, so this is the contrast that I held for later. A lot of people, by the way, this online course is $3,600. It's $3,600. In person, it's $5,200. Just so there's truth in advertising, there are no hidden costs, and that's the price, okay? So, why is that a good thing? Why is saying, hey, this is a $3,600 course?
Do you know how much it costs to go to Asian medicine school?
Do you know how long it takes?
Ooh. Whew, at least 4 years.
Yeah. And it's postgraduate, so if you don't already have an associate's degree, you're going to spend another 1 to 3 years in school getting your associates, depending on how you do that. You can do a lot online now, so you probably get it in 11 months, but you're going to spend more on your associate's degree than you would spend here with me. Now, granted, I'm not giving you a degree. I'm not giving you a medical license. That's what you're getting with TCM, but you're getting a license to do everything I do plus needles. And I don't use needles, so...
Well, you never needed to.
I've used needles.
You have, but you never needed to.
In the long run, you don't need the needles. I know several people are needle advocates. You're still trying to get to the nerves. The needles don't actually go to the blood. There's no injection. So breaking the skin to use a needle, if that's your poison and you love it, fine. But I've had acupuncturists who become my students who've used needles, and they have a limitation in what they can do. My matrix of the human body is different. My understanding is different. The way I plug formulae together, that's different.
So what this means is...
It's not 4 years.
It's not 4 years.
It's not $100,000.
The amount of people who can use this for themselves and for their families and possibly their communities becomes much bigger.
Yeah. So this system was created, I shouldn't say it was created. This system was put together for self-preservation by me. I never wanted to get sick after my 2 years and my relapse of being sick. I unfortunately lost a marriage when I had a relapse. I couldn't work for 6 months, and that's all it took.
Yeah.
Almost 3 out of 4 bankruptcies come from medical debt. Almost 3 out of 4 foreclosures come from medical debt. So this is not fear marketing. I'm just telling you, to be healthy is economics. I wanted to teach people traditional Oriental healing arts without charging them the price of a third of a house or a condominium or 3 cars or your whole education. And I don't want to put you in debt. I don't believe that $3,600 is adequate as far as making a profit. It's not about me making a profit. It just supplements the time that you spend. The other selling point I would give you is that once you graduate, you're welcome to return every year for the rest of your life for no other fees. You get 60% off of any DVD that I have, any download that I have in the Qigong library, in the Whole Body Fix library, and you have access to, you can, ask questions during class. You have more access to us because we want you to pass at a certain aptitude.
Right.
This isn't the first time I've taught. I've been teaching this class for 5 years. I've been a Qigong instructor since 2008, 2009.
I think people ought to know the reason you want to study with him is because he makes these concepts easy to understand so that you can actually apply them. A lot of times when you go to a school, the last thing you get is something that's easy to understand and easy to apply. And sometimes you get hung up in theory only, and you might be stuck there for a couple of years before you get to the practice. But we've gotten to the point where we can teach you these concepts so that after you learn them, you have a method that you can use to apply them right then on yourself so that you can see how it works. That is the key to what we do, is that we make it so that
Instant
you can start.
access.
You can start right away. Their first class, you should be able to feel changes.
Yeah, you'll have, remember the 3, you'll have mechanical, electrical, and chemical right in the first day.
Right, exactly.
But it's more, the beginning of your training is you understanding yourself.
That's exactly right. If you understand yourself, then you can go on to understanding other people.
I think the problem with medicine, all medicine, is that a lot of your practitioners, not all, but a lot of your practitioners got into the practice because they wanted to be practitioners. I never wanted to be a practitioner. I just wanted to be healthy. And there's an old expression that says, a well person has 1,000 wishes, and a sick person only has 1.
We all know what that is.
Sick person wants to be well.
Yeah.
Right? So I got well after 2.5 years in my 20s, and I stopped professionally going after my music career. You can see I got the little 90s throwback, Yadi by nature. I was all about music and not just rap. I played everything. I loved reggae music, roots reggae, not the dance hall so much. So this is a very crude 5 elements.
5 element star.
It's like a 5 element
Circle.
Stircle.
Circle.
It's a star circle.
Aww.
What is this shape?
It looks,
If you know this shape, put it in the
it
comments.
looks like an oval right now, but then it will change.
This is the shape of frustration.
But I see you have 5 colors here.
Actually, it's, yeah. Okay, so let's say we had wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, your 5 elements, right? These are your 5 elements, or Wu Sheng, right, that everything is made of in the Han medicine or the Eastern traditional healing arts, right? Okay, so everything is made of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the human body and you look at the Constitution, you can really understand in a very easy way how one constitution, for example, you have a Teiumin constitution, or a Tai-Yin. Yeah, Tai-Yin constitution. A Tai-Yin person is much more like a barrel shape. They have a wider middle,
Usually I have a tie-in shape, but I don't. So that's a good sign. I usually have a bloated big belly.
So if we just think of it this way, you have earth and you have wood. Earth and wood tend to be on the ground at the bottom, and beneath that you have water, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the kidneys are at the bottom because water always goes down. Trees, they grow downward, but they also grow upward. That's wood.
Right.
And then you have earth, which is basically where everything is. The water feeds the wood, right? So earth and wood are parallel. And then you have fire at the top. Mm-hmm. Okay, so a person who's Teiumin or Tai-Yin, that's really not the right name for the constitution, but a person who has a Tai-Yin constitution has a big earth stomach, a big earth or a big wood liver, right? So you'll see swelling in the middle. That person is prone to digestive problems, acid reflux, diabetes, eating too much or not eating enough, but they always have digestive and inflammatory conditions because remember, wood grows up, mm-hmm. right? And the fire is the highest because fire always rises, water is the bottom, it always sinks. So that's your 5 element snack, because now you learn that there's a certain propensity, like a person has this predisposition towards earth problems and wood problems.
Sure.
Once you learn what that means in terms of earth.
And what it means in terms of the body.
Yeah, so what it means, like earth is what? Stomach and spleen.
Right.
Right? And wood is liver, gallbladder.
Right.
And we start thinking, well, what does the gallbladder do? Gallbladder makes cholesterol. Cholesterol is necessary for hormones. Cholesterol works in fat, assimilation of the fats.
It stores bile, which is used to break down fatty substances in the body.
And then the liver does the filtration. The liver stores blood, stores hormones, it stores blood sugar. The liver has many jobs. It lubricates the joints.
Right.
And when you start looking at that constitution, you say, well, I could work at the joints. Like I could go into all of my reflex systems and I can go through all the little extremities and I can make this person feel better. Mechanical.
You could.
Mechanical, right? Or I can work on the constitution level, which is mechanical, electrical, and chemical. So at the end of the day, it's always better to be holistic. It's always better to nail the person's constitution and to figure out what your strategy is in 1 or 2 sessions. That way the person's not strung along for years like they are in some other practices. And it's not just, I'm not picking on Western medicine. I'm not picking on chiropractic. I'm not picking on osteopathy. But you can be strung along if you don't know your constitution.
That is very true. And you'll try different things not knowing your constitution, and you'll be wasting a lot of time.
So this is my 3rd goal that we said in the beginning.
Right.
What benefits would ETHA have for you? 1, you probably save $97,000 in 4 years of your life. And also, you're getting your feet wet. Do you really want to study that? Maybe you want to go into TCM school after this and apply what you've already learned. So now you have a primer. That's for the people who want to do this for a living. You maybe will get more than you need. You need probably a massage license or a cosmetology license to touch people, to use cups, to use certain things. But as long as you're not calling this massage, which we don't, you may not, it depends on what state you're in. You may not even need that. If you're in Vermont, you can do anything. You could spit roast a person.
I would advise not to do that. Not a good thing to do.
Use a long bamboo.
Even if it is Vermont and they say it's okay.
If you're in Mexico, hey,
no,
anything goes. I like Mexico. Anyhow, so, maybe this is something you want to do. You're a cosmetologist. You can add this to your bag of tricks because we have a huge amount of, I would say, facial rejuvenation and anti-aging and everything.
Scalp work?
Scalp for maybe helps people's hair grow. Maybe helps people who lost hair. Maybe people who have chronic pain and you're already a massage therapist, you're already making it worse. Just everything you do adds more pressure and pain and impact to your joints. This may just be something you want to do to make your life easier because this is 20 years and I see, I used to see before COVID like a client every hour with no breaks.
That's true. 6
days a week. And I might have been tired, but I was never like, oh my God, oh.
You never complained about that. That's true.
Oh, my crevice. If you're an occupational therapist and you work for people who are in an occupational living situation, you may be able to provide drug-free relief for them. If you work in assisted living, if you work in a retirement community, or, let's just say you want to start a business and you sell supplements. Wouldn't it be great if you could know what a person's constitution is and give them the right stuff and not drag them along? People will come back to you because you hit the nail on the head. Am I missing anyone? If you're already a doctor, if you're already an acupuncturist, I can guarantee you 100% that you're going to learn something that you didn't know. You're going to see something here that you can use immediately in your practices. Now, the other thing that I feel is an advantage is we teach the Western anatomy. We teach the Western pathology as well as the Eastern. So if you don't know anything, you don't have to be a special person to get therapy. You don't have to believe in the power of the flaming Buddha or whatever. No disrespect. You don't have to believe in anything, to be honest, because I can work on someone who doesn't even speak English and I can use palpation and I can use response and I'll know if it's working.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about anatomy. I did a lot of movement, but I didn't know about anatomy. I didn't know the names of bones. I didn't know the names of muscles. I didn't know anything about Chinese medicine theory. And now, after doing this, I have a much better understanding of my body and how to explain to people what's going on.
What's a cow's favorite flavor candy? Movement. Sorry, corn. Anyway.
You will get more of that in class, just so you know. So this is a preview.
Yeah, I do the mnemonics thing. Like I'll give you mnemonics to help you memorize certain things.
Those are actually very helpful. So the silliness does have a purpose. Don't think that it's just because he's, just trying to break it up. He does.
Oh, I am just trying to break it up,
but it does have a purpose.
It also helps. Yeah, I am for sure just trying to break up. Certain classes would be monotonous. Also, you learn philosophy because we study a book called the Tao Te Ching, which is an old book, very old book written. That sounded presidential. Very old book. It's an old book. It's written very long time ago. It's the second most translated book next to the Bible. The Tao Te Ching is the book of the way of virtue. Within the Tao Te Ching are the primers for understanding human nature, human disease, human healing, and human relationships. So it's very important.
All of those are important to healing. All of them.
Yeah, because you're a human. You're going to interact with humans. You may get a disease or, you may just need to understand why certain things are the way they are. And Tao Te Ching is a good primer. We also use a book called the Yi Ching, or I Ching, as some people know, the Book of Changes. And we have a condensed book of acupuncture meridians, the coloring book.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to all the digital books that we have online, a lot of charts.
Plenty of digital material. You'll get these charts that you have seen already, along with many other ones. So
You won't get
no,
this.
it'll look better than that.
If you want this,
You'll have to
send
just
$1
just
to
buy some pipe cleaners.
So
boy.
Joy, I want to thank you for coming and doing this.
Oh, you're welcome. So before we leave, we have to show a technique.
All right.
Especially for calming nerves in intense situations, which we are all involved in right now. And we all need help in that area.
All right.
Especially
So
because of these times.
what are we doing?
I don't know. I'm just imitating you.
All right. So I'm going to show you. This is a combined technique. In yoga, they have something called a mudra. A mudra, it means shape. In our world, we just say shape. So your heart meridian, your heart channel in Chinese acupuncture or in 12 meridian, the Jinglo, begins in your armpit and ends on the inner nail bed.
Yeah, the inside.
At the Jinglo point is heart 9. Okay? So this is going to be a combined thing. So let's get really excited. If you're stressed out, you're already excited, don't do this. If you're not excited and you've been watching us and you're like, oh, my face. All right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to raise up our arms, right, which already excites the heart because you make the blood pump upward to your fingers, right? And this is what we're going to do. We're going to inhale and exhale very quickly. And then shake. Okay, so...
Ooh, that does not feel good.
So you're not happy, excited, but you're a little bit
it's
more
irritating.
This is what you do with your left hand. You take your index and ring your middle and your ring finger and touch the palm of your hand, right here. Actually, I had it right in the first explanation.
Yeah,
index and your middle finger, and you touched your ring finger to your thumb, to the pad of your thumb. So you're extending the pinky, right? So you have this shape, right? Which is almost like the hang loose minus the loose.
Oh,
you're not
okay.
hanging. And remember, the heart 9 point is right here on the inner corner or the inner cuticle. And all you're going to do is wrap your thumb around it, right? Wrap your thumb around it and squeeze it. So my hand is in this position. I'm going to wrap my thumb around it and I'm going to put it in that rear naked choke. Oh, MMA!
Pinky headlock.
Rear naked choke of the pinky. Ah, mixed martial arts.
How long do we hold it?
Well, right now, if you're doing this, you should see some redness at the
At the tip, yes.
That's blood, right? Mm-hmm. So how's your calmness?
You know what's interesting? After I did that shaking, my head started to hurt, and now it doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah. So if we hold this for about a minute, and it doesn't even take that long because you're doing 3 things at one time. You're doing a form of acupressure and you're doing a form of position or mudra, right? You got shape and then you've got action. So you have static and dynamic. You have yin, which is static, and yang, which is dynamic. And you notice that your head is clearing up. You'll notice that.
Yeah, big
and,
time.
Yep. And you notice that even though we've been talking this whole time, you feel totally relaxed. It's not hypnosis, like you're getting relaxed.
Or magic. It's not magic.
But yeah, so within seconds. Now, if you have a heart condition, this is your friend. If you have allergies, this is your friend because the heart being calm really does settle the fire in the body. How do you feel?
I feel much more relaxed and able to breathe better.
Want to do it again with the hands?
No.
No. All right. How do y'all feel? You feel good? All right. So
That actually was a good one. Yeah, thank you for that.
it's just a combined technique that uses principle of static and dynamic, yin and yang, which is the fundamental basis of everything. Hey, Walter, you want to say anything? Walter is a turtle of few words.
And he looks forward to seeing you guys.
Really
In class.
big old turtle eyes. Anyways, we want to thank you for joining the webinar. We've tried to make this subject, which I find very exciting, something that you can find exciting too. And if you're interested in attending, go to our site, join the class now, fill out the agreement, pay the down payment or pay the tuition in full. I can only take a few more people. So this webinar is for the select individuals that say yes. It's a 6-month program. It's 4 hours a week only, Saturday 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Yep.
We do it on Microsoft Teams, not Zoom, because Zoom is... Yeah.